Ah, fantastic. There we are. Sorry about the technical problems there, everybody. It's fantastic to be here, and welcome to this Easy 11 Plus live lesson on algebra, your favourite topic. I've been trying out a few new things this week with the channel, see if you like the video quality. I should also be able to reply to your comments a little bit more quickly than I have at times in the past, so let's see whether that works. And thank you to everybody who hung around as I was sorting out the technical problems there. Let us get started. So here is the first of these algebra problems that we're going to look at today. Now this might not look like a typical algebra question to you because you're probably used to algebra problems that look a little bit like 3a plus 4 equals 20, and then you have to work out what a is. A little bit of a fiddly one there. Yes, a big shout out to Tony Cotton. Someone's asking me to turn off slow mode. Slow mode doesn't make your comments slow. What slow mode does is it stops you posting a comment more than once every 30 seconds. So it's to stop people spamming. If you've got a normal comment, type it in the comments box and I will see it almost straight away. It does not affect you, Narmada, so don't worry about it. And a shout out to Tony. I can't shout at everybody, but I think Tony was the first person to ask. So you're used to algebra problems like that with letters and so on, but algebra, we're just talking about any situation where numbers are replaced with symbols of some sort. And so this is a typical situation of that kind. So we can see that these symbols stand for numbers and keep their own values in the four equations. Find the numbers, cross, rectangle, wonky rectangle, and diamond, let us say. So what can we do with this? Well, it's really not too bad at all, as you'll see. Let's use our common sense. Where can we start? Well, in the first row here, we're actually given a number and a symbol. So let's see what we can do with that. 1 plus square equals, square, wonky rectangle, equals 6. Okay, so I can hear some feedback coming from my headphones. Let's just kill the sound. There we are. Phew. 1 plus square is 6. So a square must be whatever you add to 1 to get 6. Obviously, what is that? Of course, it's 5. 1 plus 5 gives 6. A square is 5. I'm going to call it square even though it isn't, just because it makes life easy. So now let's look for all the other squares in this set of solutions. Diamond minus square, that's 5 equals 2. And down the bottom here, 5 plus cross equals diamond. By the way, I hope you like the maroon pen colour I'm using today. I thought I'd mix things up after I always use blue. So diamond minus 5 equals 2. So what minus 5 equals 2? It's easy. Add 5 to 2, we get 7. 7 minus 5 equals 2. Now in the next row we can see there's a diamond. We can also see there's a diamond down here. It's all falling into place. 7 plus something equals 9. 7 plus what? Well, 7 plus 2 equals 9. And if that's correct, then when we put 2 down here as well, it will work. 5 plus 2 equals 7. Yes, it does. So that's our checking row. It all fits together. So in the end, we can say that the square, or wonky rectangle, is 5, that the diamond is 7, and that the cross is 2. Et voila. That's it. So it's as straightforward as that. It really isn't that complex. What's going on in the chat here? Wow, loads of answers, loads of correct answers, fantastic. Yeah, you've done really well. Now, I wouldn't say that's the most difficult algebra question ever, but the point of this lesson is that I'm not choosing the really hard questions I've looked at occasionally in the past. There's a video I posted quite recently with some simultaneous equations, and that's really the sort of bleeding edge of 11 plus. This is much more the kind of question that's quite likely to turn up, that you need to be familiar with. The algebra isn't horrible, but you just need to be systematic. So here, we just needed to find a place to begin. So just to recap, we looked for the row where, rather than having symbol and symbol, symbol and symbol, symbol and symbol, we looked for the row where there was a symbol and a number. And that gave us our way in, because if you look across this whole row, this whole equation, we've got a situation where there are two numbers and only one thing replaced by a symbol. So we can work out what that is. And when we work that out, we can find another row where there's a symbol and a symbol, but one of those is a square, and we can replace that square with our result, and then we find that row's answer, and so on, and it all kind of drops out beautifully in the end. So that's how it works. Great. Algebra does not need to be too horrible. Before we go on to the next question, take a moment for anyone who's new here to tell you who I am. I am Robert Lomax. I do these live lessons every Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock, as you probably worked out because you're here. And I also tend to release a short video lesson, usually on a Saturday morning at about 9 o'clock these days. If you want to find out more about me, look in the video description and follow some of the links there. And you'll find my website and you'll find out about all the other things that I do. Now, if you're wondering why I do what I do, one of the main reasons for this channel is that I think that far too much education is only for people who can pay lots of money, and I want to make 11 plus preparation open and accessible and fun for way more people through these kind of free private tuition classes on YouTube. And if you think that's something worth doing, then please this week speak to your friends and find at least one person to invite along to join one of my lessons in the next week or two. And if every week everybody watching this goes out and finds somebody else to come and at least try one lesson, then this community is going to go bang, and loads of people are going to find out about these free lessons, and that'll be wonderful for me, but I hope it'll also be wonderful for them. Spiel over. Let's go back into the lesson and have a look at the next question. We've only got 3 questions today. There's not too much, it's not too onerous. Phoenix says, Robert, I bought your creative writing book. Fantastic. I hope it's really useful. Thank you, Vimy, for your very kind words. Wow. Priyanka says that she loves algebra. Well, that's wonderful. I think algebra is quite fun. It's very satisfying and logical when the answers fall out. Namada says, I've subbed. I've already liked the video. That's fantastic. Thank you. And John N would like a shout out. There is your shout out. And then I get my critics. Every time you see a video, show it to a friend, says the sheet is really a waste of paper. Each question is on its own page. The reason each question is on its own page is, I shouldn't need to explain this, it's so you've got space to do the working out and learn from it and not be cramped. That's why. When you don't need so much working space, I don't put each question on its own page, you silly thing. You can always work on it on the computer if you prefer. Okay, I can't give everybody a shout out, sorry, who's asked for it. We have to push on at some point. Solve these equations to find the number represented by each letter. Who else hates it when you have an equation with S as a symbol? Because the problem with S is, unless you have the most beautiful handwriting in the world, if you're like me, here is a 5, here is an S, spot the difference. I hate these, but it's what we got, so I'm going to have to be extra careful. Let's write this out again down here. This is why you need the extra working out space. Every time you see a video, show it to a friend. That's an amazing YouTube name. Don't worry, you've written sorry, but I'm not offended. I was just joking. Let's write this one out down here. Let's use some of that space. 15s equals 90. Okay, so remember what an equation means. It's something with an equal sign in the middle, and equals means is the same as, okay? And so this leads into one of the most basic principles of solving equations, which is that if you do something to one side of the equal sign, you must always do the same thing to the other side of the equal sign. Because if you don't, then that statement is the same as will no longer be true, okay? So to keep these things the same, you always have to do everything to both sides of the equal sign. So here we've got, I'm going to make this bigger actually so that you can see it more clearly out there. So we've got 15s equals 90. So I've made my s look different by putting it lower. That's about as good as I can do with my writing. So that means 15 s's are the same as 90, okay? Because 15s really means 15 times s. You know that, but that's just a bit of revision. If you don't know these basic things, have a look at some of my introduction to algebra videos on the channel, which will help to clarify some of these essential points. So we got 15 s's are 90. So we want to know what 1s is equal to. How do we get from 15 s's to 1s? Well, if we got 15 times s, 15 lots of s, and we want to find one lot of s, then we need to divide that total amount into 15 bits because we're just taking one of them, okay? I'm sure that's obvious, but maybe it isn't. That's the point of this lesson. So we're dividing by 15. It's not obvious at all, is it? You have to learn these things before they're obvious. Divide it by 15 to get 1s. And remember, everything we do to one side, we have to do to the other side, or equals saying it's the same as will become a lie. So if we've divided 15s by 15, we have to divide 90 by 15, okay? 90 divided by 15, so s is 90 divided into 15 bits. 90 and 15 can both be divided by 15, by 5, let's divide by 3. That's a nice one. We can do anything we like to simplify this. Let's divide by 3. It's nice and easy. 90 divided by 3 is 30. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 30 divided by 5, you know your times tables, and if you don't, you should learn them, is 6. So that's the answer to this one. Is there an answer space to write this? No, there isn't, so let's leave it down here. Okay, so s equals 6. Onwards, part B. 5t plus 18 equals 78. Okay? 5t plus 18 equals 78. Now this one is a bit fiddly looking. I'll make that 5 a bit more of a 5. But we just need to take it step by step. To know what step at each point, we need to think about where we're aiming. So in the end, we are going to want something like t equals blah, 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 something or other, a numerical value. Now to get to that, what is the step before going to look like? Well, if I know that 2t's, for example, equal something, then I just have to half it to get t. Similarly, if I know that squiggle t's are equals to long squiggle, then I just have to divide by little squiggle and I'll get the answer. So I want something that looks like this, because I know that from there I can really easily get to t equals. Okay? So when you're doing algebra, when you're solving equations, you always need to know what you're aiming for. That's the crucial thing. Okay? Know what you're aiming for. Important takeaway from today's lesson. So we're going to want something like, I don't know, 5t. That looks like what we got on the right. But at the moment we got 5t plus 18, and we don't want that. That plus 18 is getting in the way and stopping us reaching the answer. So we want to get rid of it. Okay, now you've heard me say this a lot in my lessons on algebra because it's fundamental. If we want to get rid of something when we're solving an equation, how do we do that? What's the answer? Can anyone quickly put it in the comments? How do I get rid of something when I'm solving an equation? This is me experimenting with my new ultra low latency comments to get technical about it. Is anyone going to get in there in time? Tony Cotton is absolutely right. He's written inverse. Can anyone explain that in English? Every time you see a video, it's written minus. That is true, but I want the... Yes, Hride has written what Tony's put, but slightly more fully. You do the inverse. Do the opposite. Tahir, that is the answer I wanted. Fantastic. You do the opposite. That's how you get rid of it, okay? So we got 5t plus 18. To do the opposite and get rid of the plus 18, I need to minus 18. It's as simple as that once you know what's going on. So minus 18 from both sides. 5t plus 18 minus 18 is just 5t. That's the whole point. That's why I've done the opposite, to get rid of the plus 18. It equals, we have to minus 18 here too. How do we minus 18 from 78? Oh, come on, you know that. 78 minus 8 is 70, minus 10 is 60, it's 60. And now we are where we wanted to be over here. Okay, we've got our 5t's are 60, so 1t is a fifth of 60. 60 divided by 5 is 12. How do I know that 60 divided by 5 is 12? Because I know my times tables, hopefully, but also because I can use a simple trick to divide by 5. What's the trick for dividing by 5? Can anyone quickly tell me what the trick is for dividing by 5 while I write a note here? The mental arithmetic trick. No, not quick enough. Okay, to divide by 5, you divide by 10 and double it. So 60 divided by 10 is 6. You just know that straight away. 6 doubled is 12. You know that straight away. And so that is how you divide by 5 really simply. Divide by 10 and double it. So 60 divided by 5 is 12. That is the answer here. T equals 12. Now, on this row here, I used what I call a kind of, well done, Rama, you got there in the end, divide by 10 times 2. Helen, also excellent. Almost quick enough off the draw. So, yeah, I used a kind of common sense approach, I'd call it. I said, well, 5 t's are 60, so 1 t is a fifth of 60, which is 12. You can also do the kind of, I am doing the algebra method, the solving equations method approach, where you could say there are 5 t's, that is 5 times t. I want to take away 5 times. What is the opposite of 5 times? It is divided by 5, so I divide both sides by 5. That also works. It ends up as the same thing. I think you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to think about it logically, but you also need to be able to just religiously do the method as well. That will get you through some tricky spots. Okay, C. Now you can see why I gave a whole page for these questions, the person who was asking. So C, n divided by 2 minus 3 equals 22. N divided by 2 minus 3. C. N over 2 minus 3, make this nice and big, equals 22. Okay, so we got this n divided by 2, or n over 2, but I'm sure you've worked out by now what we're trying to do with this. It's the same principle, because, something for you to think about here, a little sideline, I've explained this before, but it's still worth bearing in mind. So n divided by 2 is the same as a half of n, which is the same, as, of course, as a half times n. And that's just my little way of reminding you, I've hidden that behind my picture, that's my little way of reminding you that dividing and timesing are the same thing. They're different ways of expressing the same concept. So n divided by 2 is exactly the same as n times a half, or a half times n. So when I look at this problem here, what I want to end up with is still going to be something like 2t or 5t or 5n or whatever it might be. But in this case, that is at this point, I'm saying this horribly. What I'm trying to say is that we want to end up with n divided by 2 in the same way that we wanted before to end up with something like 2t or 5t, as it turned out to be. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So we want to end up with n divided by 2 because we can find the answer from that. And the thing that's getting in the way of that, that's clogging up this left-hand side and stopping us seeing n divided by 2, is of course the minus 3. And as people have ably explained previously, we get rid of something by doing the opposite. How do you get rid of minus 3? You do plus 3, which is the opposite of minus. Plus 3, add 3 to both sides. So n divided by 2 equals 25. Okay? So if n divided by 2, or half of n, is 25, then of course n must be 50. The common sense method again, okay? Half of n is 25, so the whole of n must be twice as big, 50. Again, you can also use the formal method. So we have n divided by 2. How do you undo n divided by 2? Well, you must do the opposite, which is multiply by 2. And because it's an equation, we must multiply both sides by 2. We do that, and so we times n divided by 2, we get n, and we times 25 by 2, and we get 50. So that's the formal way of doing what I think we can also get to using a big splodge of common sense. N equals 50. Now actually I want to take these answers now and point out something else you really should be doing in the exam, and that I really should have been doing as I've explained it. Yes, I make mistakes as well. So that is that you should be checking your answers. So with this one we just got here, how do you check your answer? Well, the answer we got is 50. So the way we check it is really simple. We just quickly, ideally in our minds, plug it back in to the original equation, okay? N divided by 2 minus 3 equals 22. So we found that n is 50. So now we just try 50 out inside that equation. So we say, okay, 50 divided by 2 is 25. 25 minus 3, so 24, 23, 22 is 22, and that's what we got over here. So it works. So we've tested our answer. Let's do it with the previous one. So again, the original equation was 5t plus 18 is 78. We've got the answer 12. So we plug that in. 5 times 12, so we're putting 12 instead of t. 5 times 12 is 60 plus 18 is 78. So again, that works. Back to the first one. 15s equals 90. We found that s is 6. 15 lots of 6, well 6 lots of 15, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. It works, okay? So we check our answers by plugging them back in like that. Okay, and here is the final question for this session. So before we go into this, let's take a moment's time out for the drum roll. That was a terrible drum roll. Yes, it's the tip of the week, and a really simple tip of the week, which has come to mind to me recently as I've been rushing around doing millions of things, which is that as you start really thinking about your exams and you're doing extra homework for the 11 plus on top of your homework from school and everything, one thing that might fall by the wayside is sleep. So easily happens that we just forget to get enough sleep at night, and then our schoolwork falls off and we stop enjoying things and we get miserable and everything seems stressful. So a really simple tip of the week this week, which is make sure you get enough sleep however hard you're working, especially if you're working extra hard. Don't miss an hour out each night, because in the end it'll just build up and life will be miserable and you will do less well. So relax, prioritize rest and sleep. But not now, because we need to concentrate and carry on with today's lesson. So, every time you see a video that says, I never sleep, I wish I had that talent. Someone says, Robert, have you done a video on spatial reasoning? I most certainly have. Have a look at the non-verbal reasoning playlist on the Easy 11 Plus channel homepage. So go to the Easy 11 Plus homepage. There's a playlist for reasoning, and there are various videos there for non-verbal reasoning, which include spatial reasoning questions. My spatial reasoning stuff tends to be called non-verbal reasoning NVR on the channel, but that's what it is. There's lots of spatial reasoning in there. That's what I mean. Back to the question. Concentration, Robert. Steve wants to hire a storage unit. I did a video about this just the other week, about pricing graphs. The storage company charges a fixed charge of £28 plus rental charge of £33 per week. Now, when you get a real world question like this, the first thing you need to stop and do, that'll do. Oh no, what is going on, Robert? What is going on? The first thing you need to stop and do is ask yourself, what is happening in real life? What does this mean? So you are Steve, okay? I am Steve. That's my middle name. You found me out at last. No, it's stupendous. Anyway, Steve, you are Steve. You go to the rental place and you want to rent a storage unit for a certain number of weeks. 4 weeks, let's say. And they say, yeah, great. So that's going to be £28. And then each week we're going to charge you another £33. Okay? It's as simple as that. £28, and then each week there's another £33. You need to get that clear in your mind before you try doing the maths, because if you don't understand the actual situation, you're liable to get stuck when the maths comes along. Right, now let's look at that maths. So, using C for the total cost in pounds and W for the number of weeks the unit is hired, write a formula to calculate the total cost of hiring the storage unit. Okay, I've just noticed something. I've noticed something terrible. I did not write this question, okay? If I had written this question, you would be entitled to say, you did a video on punctuation last week, and this is appallingly punctuated. Steve wants to hire a storage unit. The storage company, that is a new sentence. Goodness me. Terrible grammar. Not my grammar, because I have borrowed this question from a school's past paper. Right, got that sorted. Phew, we can breathe again and carry on. Avocado, it's not actually, it's Stephen, really. But really it's stupendous. My middle name is stupendous, as you all know. Using C for the total cost in pounds and W for the number of weeks the unit is hired. Okay, so C is the cost and W is the number of weeks. Write a formula to calculate the total cost of hiring the storage unit. So to calculate the total cost, they've just told us that C is the total cost. So we need to calculate C. Okay, so our formula is going to be C is. How do we say is in maths? You know that. So C equals. So the total cost, that's that, is, that's the equal sign. Okay, what is it? Well, it starts off, you walk into that office, you're Steve, you walk in there, you say, I want to rent this, and they say, okay, so that's going to start off as £28. So it's going to be 28. Now, you do not need to write the pound symbol in the equation. I'm not talking about your answer, I'm not talking about any results you get from the equation, but in the equation you do not need to write the pound symbol. Why? Because C is the total cost in pounds. So pounds is kind of within the whole idea of C. You don't need to restate it. C equals 28, and then you're charged something else on top of the initial £28. How do we say something else on top of the in maths? Really simple. This is why maths is great, because it saves us a lot of words. It looks like this. 28 and also £33 for each week, okay? Plus £33 times by the number of weeks. So for example, if it's 2 weeks, I'm going to be charged £33 in the first week and 33 in the second. So it's 33 times 2. But remember, when we are writing down equations, when we're writing algebra, we don't write 33 times W. We just write 33 W. Let's push that up a little bit closer and make it a bit more W-ish. W-ish. So it's £28 plus 33 times the number of weeks. Let's write it in the answer space. Always write your answer in the answer space. Don't forget to do this. C is £28. So 28 plus £33 for each week of rental. So it's 28 plus 33 W. You hear the sound of turning pages. That's because I do check the answers before I do the lesson, just to avoid making horrible, stupid mistakes when I'm distracted by all the live streaming stuff. By the way, do you like the video quality this time? I've really, I got super duper mega fast broadband in the last few days, so I've been upping the streaming quality. I hope that comes across and you can see things more clearly than in some lessons in the past. Let me know what you think about the video quality. Ivo, you want a shout out? Here is a shout out for you. Ivo Nikolov or Ivo? Ivo. I don't know. Someone says they come across the question. Yes, indeed, I borrowed the question, as I say, because it's useful to look at actual questions that have come up and not just questions that I've invented. I think that's really helpful for your learning sometimes, so that you can really believe that this really is 11 plus and not just some craziness from inside my head. B, he, that would be Steve, wants to hire the storage unit for 12 weeks, okay? Almost 3 months. Calculate the total cost of hiring the unit for 12 weeks. So we want to find the cost. C. We don't know it. We do know the number of weeks. W. Okay? So that's what we can plug in. Now, just to make things nice and systematic, let's work it out. Let's do it in a nice ordered fashion with every stage shown. C equals a C, not an L, honest, I promise. C equals 28 plus 33. So I'm going to start by repeating the equation. I accept that in an exam under time pressure, you might not spend time repeating the equation. I'm just doing that now to make things really, really clear, I hope. We don't know C, so we leave that as C. C equals 28 and 33, 12 times, 12 lots of 33, otherwise known as 33 times 12. Okay, what does that equal? It equals 28 plus, what is 33 times 12? I think this is a good moment to do a quick bit of working out. Okay, so let's do 33 times 12. Let's keep this nice. Oh, I've hidden that behind my face. I think the maths is much more beautiful, so let's expose that. 33 times 12, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6. We start the next line with a 0. Don't forget, if there was another line, you'd start 0, 0, and so on. If that isn't clear to you, I did a video on long multiplication just a few weeks ago. Have a look in the channel. 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 3 is 3. We add it up, 6, 9, 3. Et voila, 396. Et voila is my 11 plus phrase of the week. It's not really 11 plus because they aren't going to test you on your French. And that isn't really very much French or a very nice French accent, but never mind. 396, 28 plus 396. Let's do it in the same way. A nice column. 396 plus 28. Are there any French people watching the lesson? Very welcome to you if so, and my apologies for butchering your language. 8 plus 6, is 14. Okay, 9 plus 2 is 11, plus 1 is 12, 3 plus 1 is 4, 424. Now you could have done that more quickly with a bit of mental arithmetic. Really simply, add 30 and take away 2. Okay, add 30 to 396, we get 426, take away 2 to get, so we added 28 instead of 30, we get 424. So C equals 424. Is that our answer? Do we just write 424? Well, we need to calculate the total cost. Is 424 a cost? Yes, of course it is. 424 pence. 424 million pound. 424 pounds. Do not forget the units unless you really like throwing away marks. Always write the units. Okay? Always write the units. To do that, you check the question again like this. We've looked at the question and we've gone, we need to calculate the total cost. A cost is expressed in pounds and pence, or in this case, just pounds. And so we need the pound symbol. Check the question, write the units, or fail your exam. Well, it could come to that. Hopefully not. Just do it. Check units. Check for units. Steve actually paid £688. It's quite a lot of money for storage for not that long. I hope it was worth it. How many weeks did he hire the storage unit for? Okay, we've done the working out for B here. Let's label this B just so the examiner knows what they're dealing with. And then we're going to put another label. Oopsie daisies. Let's just bracket that off so it's nice and clear. Let's put another label C for our working out for C so everyone knows what's happening. He paid £688. Right, let's start again by repeating the equation so we know what we're dealing with. C equals 28 and 33 weeks. So £33 plus £33 times the number of weeks gives us the cost, okay? And we know that he paid £688. So we don't know the number of weeks, but we do know the cost, C. So we can replace C with the cost, which is 688. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I hope so. 688 equals 28 plus 33W. Okay. Remember the P's, says somebody. Absolutely. Jaden, a shout out for you. Right. Oh, someone's written total cost, Robert, exclamation mark. Have I made a mistake? Does this mean I've made a mistake? No, it doesn't. I haven't made a mistake because the total cost involves adding 28, which is why I've got 424, not 396. Someone says, Robert, where do you find past papers? Hold that thought. I'm going to be answering your questions very soon. Right, 688 is 28 plus 33W. Now remember, we've gone through this lots and lots and lots. You'll remember way back up here. Where were we? Way back up here. We were talking about what we're aiming for. Ideally, something like that. So we'd like something like 2t or 5t or 33w equals something, because then we can divide by 33 and find out w. But we've got this rubbish here getting in the way, okay? And get rid of the rubbish may not be the most standard 11 plus advice you've ever received, but it's the right advice here. We've got to get rid of this rubbish. We got plus 28. We want to get rid of that. How do we get rid of plus 28? Of course, as everybody has already explained to me in the comments, you subtract it. Okay, minus 28. 688 minus 28 is 660. Apart from being, of course, a genius, how do I do that? Only joking, there's no genius involved here. It's really simple. Minus 8 is 680, minus 20 is 660. Gives us 33W. You'll notice I'm not writing in the notes in the margin anymore saying minus 28. That's because you've got the hang of it and I don't need to. Joking apart, it's probably a good idea to keep writing these notes until you are so incredibly confident with your algebra that you do it in your dreams and get it right. It helps to make sure you don't make mistakes. So keep writing these marginal notes. Minus 28. So I write that note. That's a reminder I'm doing that to both sides. Okay. Now I've got 660 is 33W, but we want one lot of W. So how do I get from 33 lots of W to one lot of W? I divide it into 33 bits. I'm going to come back to this actually in a second, just make another point, a common point of confusion, but let's just stick with this for the moment. So we're dividing by 33. That's a divide sign, honestly? Really? So divide by 33. So 660 divided by 33 is W. Okay, 660 divided by 33. A bit tricky, but I can clearly see that both of these things are going to divide by 3, just obviously. So that's going to be 220. Okay, 600 divided by 3 is 200. 60 divided by 3 is 20. Add them together. 33 divided by 3 is 11. 11 times 10 is 110. So times 20 must be 220. So divide these both by 11. 11 divided by 11 is 1. 220 divided by 11 is 20. Okay, you can do that as a division if you want to, but I don't think it's that bad. 20 divided by 1, which is, unsurprisingly, 20. So W is 20. Okay? Right, tell you what I'm going to do. There was another point I wanted to cover in this, which I think is kind of interesting, a really common mistake, but I'm going to hold it there as a teaser. So I'm going to answer some of your questions, and then I'm going to pop back and show you one other useful point about that algebra question. Just to keep mixing things up, keep experimenting. Right. Drawing Cool says, hello, sorry I'm late, Robert. Well, Drawing Cool, it is fantastic that you are here to join us at all. So well done for joining the lesson. It doesn't matter at all that you're late. Right, the question that somebody already asked, and they very kindly repeated, was, where do you find past papers? Well, more than one answer to this. If you're preparing for a grammar school exam, and we're talking about most grammar schools that use the CEM or GL standards of paper, unfortunately you by and large can't get actual past papers because they keep them close to their chests. But what you can do is you can get lots of papers that look like those tests. I do papers like that. Video description. Lots of other people do papers like that, I have to say, although I don't think anybody gives as much answer material, as much detail in the explanations as I do. Loads of people sell these things. CGP sells lots of these papers, for example, designed to look like the CEM and GL and so on. If you're preparing for independent private school exams, then very often they publish past papers on their websites. Don't just look at your school's website, look at other schools' websites. They might publish similar past papers, which will help you to prepare. But also you should be practicing with a wide range of materials. Don't just practice with the papers that look like the schools you're preparing for. Do loads of different things and get really good at 11 plus skills in general. And then you'll be brilliant. Namada Vinod says, is that a green screen or a wall behind you? If so, can you buy one as your camera takes up too much space? I'm not completely sure what you mean. It is a green screen behind me, but I just use it as a background, a nice, clear, simple background that's not too distracting. And then you can see around the outside, I've got a bit of my graphics. What do you mean my camera takes up too much space? Do you mean you just want me zooming in like this? You just want to see my face? You don't want that. Ugly face. Priyanka says, can I invite my friend? Please invite your friend. I would love it if everybody here encouraged one friend each week to come and join these lessons, and then we'll get a real community here of people enjoying preparing for the 11 plus, and that'll make me very happy. Simrat says, can you do a video on fractions? Have a look at my channel. There are already several videos on fractions. There are a couple of videos specifically about fractions already, and there are lots of other videos that deal with fractions alongside other things. So go into the channel, have a look at the maths bit, and explore, and you will find stuff on fractions. And there'll be more stuff on fractions over time. Stuff on tenses. Yeah, I might do more detailed stuff on tenses. There's already quite a lot of stuff on tenses. I talk about it at various points. Yeah, I haven't done a specific video on tenses. There's a video on verbs and how to use them, which is relevant to that. It might be useful. Right. Back to where do you find past papers? And have a look at my website, and there's loads of stuff to do with past papers with my solutions and so on my website, linked down there in the video description. Namatha says, why is algebra important? That's actually a really interesting question. There are all kinds of situations in maths, in life, where we have some information but not other bits of information. So algebra deals with situations where we can work out how things are related, but we don't yet know all the answers. And then we can often use the algebraic ideas that we develop to find out more. So for example, we've looked at a case here, we were looking at Steve, weren't we? And Steve has this rental agreement. So we know what it costs per week, we know the upfront cost. But what we don't know is what he's going to have to pay. But we can take that information, we can make it into some algebra, into an equation, and then suddenly we have something which enables us in any situation to find out what it's going to cost, however long Steve wants to rent for. Using this equation, if Steve changes his mind while he's busy renting and wants to add a few weeks on, he can work out what it will cost. So algebra here allows us to take things that we know and use those things to work out things that we don't know. Algebra is also really, really useful when you've got more than one thing which can change over time. So let's say, for example, I don't know, Carbolus, you've got a colony of ants that you're investigating on the International Space Station. And maybe over time you learn that as the temperature, let's not go Bacarba, let's just keep it light, as the temperature in the space station changes, the rate at which the ants breed. Oh, dear, I've done the confetti again by accident. I need to get used to that graphic. The rate at which the ants breed increases or decreases. So you can maybe form an equation that says, as I change the temperature this much, my number of ants is going to change over time by this much or this much. And so that's a really useful thing that you can use to work out how much storage space you need for breeding your ants in space, for example. So there we got a situation, you've got more than one thing that could change, and we see how the changes relate to each other. So algebra is useful for infinite number of things, but there are just some thoughts about it. Really good question, thank you. I waffled a bit, but really good question. I should have prepared for that. Which is the hardest exam? It really depends, but I think some of the hardest ones for 11 plus. St Paul's Girls' School is really tough, and also they've got a general paper which is really tricky, and there isn't much out there to help you prepare for it. So that's definitely tough. I'd mentioned that. Manchester Grammar School has got the hardest multiple choice exam for English and general stuff. Definitely really tricky multiple choice exam where you're under real time pressure and the questions are hard with difficult texts and lots of them. But it depends ultimately. I mean, the hardest exam is the exam where you have to do best in. It might, how to put it, if there's an exam where the questions aren't that hard, but everybody wants to go to that school and you have to do almost perfectly, that would therefore be a really hard exam to do well in. So it depends. I just don't worry about it. Just prepare as well as you can, and then you will be successful whatever you do in your whichever school you go to, and that's all you need to worry about. How to do better in written comprehension. Crumbs, I've done so much on written comprehension. There are squizillions of videos in my channel. Go to the Easy 11 Plus channel homepage. You will find loads of stuff there. I have written loads of books on doing written comprehension. Go to my website, go to Amazon and look for RSL, or go to my website and the shop page, link in the video description. Have a look at all the books I've got there. There's my 11 Plus Lifeline service. It's full of stuff for written comprehension, always with answers and explanations and blah blah blah. So I'm not going to give you a comprehension lesson now because this was a maths lesson, but there's so much out there. Look at my stuff, look at my free videos, look at my books if you want to, look at 11 Plus Lifeline. There's loads of stuff there to help you. How do you get better at reasoning? To be honest, I want to give you exactly the same answer, but just say reasoning instead of comprehension. My reasoning stuff is in my videos, but also 11 Plus Lifeline is where I've published a lot of stuff for reasoning, and not so much my books. Do you need to expand vocabulary? Someone says. Yeah, really useful. I've got some stuff in that and some videos on the channel. Actually, look at some stuff on reasoning. There's a Q&A session. It's the first thing I talk about, how you build your vocab. But as I always say, yes, building vocabulary is important, but maybe even more important, not maybe, definitely more important, is that you learn to use the vocabulary you already have even better than you can already. And that's the thing that will make the really big difference. And that's what you need to concentrate on, whether it's doing beautiful creative writing, where you use the words you already know to write beautifully before you start cramming in loads of special new words you're memorizing, whether it's reasoning, where yeah, you could learn loads of words, but there'll still be words in the exam you don't know. So how well do you deal with those words that you don't know? That's the thing that will mark out the highest achievers in those exams, and so on. Blah, 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 blah. Where can we find SATs practice? To be honest, SATs is not really my area of expertise, so I'm going to duck that one, but I know there are lots of websites out there that will help with it. What does RSL stand for? It stands for really special lessons. It stands for whatever you want it to stand for. Okay, I'm going to call a break on this Q&A because I'm going to go back to what I promised, which is a quick extra comment about the algebra here. Because one thing that a lot of people get confused with, I want to go back to this row here, okay? So I'm just going to copy that row out. 60, I'm running a bit short of space here. Let's zoom right in. What was it? It was 688 is 28 plus 33W. 688 equals 28 plus 33W. Okay, so we're just looking at this as algebra. Don't worry about Steve anymore. We're just thinking about the algebra, about the letters and the numbers. Now, as I explained, we oh no, it's the next row. Yeah. So first of all, we need to subtract the 28. Sorry, let's do that quickly. We subtract 28. So we have 660. This is the row we wanted, really. 660 equals 33W. And I said we want 1W, so we need to divide 33W into 33 bits to get 1W. But there's always some smart person in the class who says, but hang on, can we get 1W if we take away 32 Ws? And of course they're right, you could. But what happens when we do that? So if we do minus 32 Ws to leave us with 1W, remember, this is the crucial thing. Everything you do, you have to do to both sides. So if I take away 32 Ws from 660, what do I have? So I got 660 pounds, take away 32 Ws equals W. And suddenly, I've got a W term, I've got W's on both sides of the equal sign again. So I'm actually further away from having 33 W's equals something or whatever it might be, or W. I'm further away from having W equals than I was before. I've made life more difficult. So that's why you can't do it by minusing. You have to do it by dividing, okay? Dividing into 33 bits. I could explain that more, but I think that's the key point. So yes, you could take away 32 W's, but it would not help you to get the answer. You need to divide by 33, because then we're dividing everything up, divide by 33, and blah, 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 we get to the answer, which was, of course, W equals 20, and we've already done that. 20 weeks. By the way, in terms of units, just conventionally, you don't need to write, oh, I didn't write it in, blimey. Yeah, there we are, 20. You don't need to write 20 weeks, because the question says how many weeks. So it's already told us that the answer is in weeks, so we just need to write 20. Just a small point, but worth bearing in mind. If question B had said how many pounds, then strictly speaking, you wouldn't need to write the pound sign, although you should anyway, just in case the examiner hasn't thought of it like that. You don't want to risk losing a mark. But here, you really don't need to write the word weeks. Having said that, if you want to write weeks, safety first, that way you definitely can't risk losing a mark or half a mark. So it's a really, really good thing to do. Simrat says, I'm typing random stuff right now. Well, it's looking remarkably coherent. So it's been wonderful to have you here. Now, everybody, if you're rewatching this lesson, this won't make any sense if you're live, you should click on the video, which will miraculously pop up here, because that would be the ideal thing to watch next if you want to develop the skills that you've been studying in this lesson. In the meantime, it's been fantastic to have you here. Check out the links in the video description. Please invite your friends along to join my lessons, whether it's my live lessons or to rewatch the lessons on my channel and study for the 11+. I will see you next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. Look out for the worksheet, and don't forget my next short video, which will be released first thing on Saturday morning. Phew, it's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining the lesson, and Goodbye.